Hey guys, so we're back with another video today. I apologize for taking so long to get back to our series. I was pretty busy over the holidays and spending time with family and stuff like that, and I had a little bit of part-time work over the holidays, so now we're just getting back on track. So what we're going to do today is I have a server here that's up and running, and I guess you could consider this a production server, right? So it has TeamSpeak on it, it's got some Arma servers on it excuse me, and you can see this server is pretty much maxed out because it's a small server that I have that I just had as a spare. So I just put a couple servers on there for some of my friends so they could play Arma 3 on some of the missions that I've made in the past. So I'm just gonna minimize all this stuff, and so what we're gonna do today is you could see that we have this server has it's got a RAID drive, and then it's got its regular C drive, right? So the C drive contains the TeamSpeak server, and the RAID contains excuse me, all the Arma stuff. So if we look into our main server here, we could see that if we go in and check excuse me, if we go in and check the Arma server here, the settings, we could see that we have these two additional disks right here, RAID 1 and RAID 2. So we've got additional disks that I've set up in a RAID 0 to kind of help with the storage requirements for that server. So what I did show you guys before was how to set the server up and all that stuff, and how to do the TeamSpeak server and everything, and it doesn't really matter what you have the server set up for, but one of the things I didn't show you how to do was how to back it up. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now, and it's really easy. I think this is important. Once you have your server set up, and like I said, if it's in a production environment where it's got TeamSpeak running and all that stuff, and you have clients or friends connecting or whatever you're using your server for, okay, you should have it backed up. So you're just gonna go into server manager, right? It should be here in your server manager, and you're just gonna go to manage, add roles and features, okay, hit next, role based, hit next, and select server. So obviously it's this Arma server we're doing. Hit next, and we're gonna go down, and we don't see it here, but we're just gonna hit next and go down all the way down, and it's right here, Windows Server Backup. Now I'll just show you, if you don't do this step first, if you don't know if you have it installed or not, it's real easy to see. If you just go into tools, it is listed, but once you open it, it'll say that Windows Server Backup is not installed on this server, right? So we're gonna go ahead and install it. Okay, so next, 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 next. And we're just gonna scroll down, and it's right here. Okay, and we're gonna install that. It's gonna take a few minutes, and in the meantime, I'm gonna sip on my morning coffee. And yes, it is my morning at 10:30 p.m. at night. My for some reason my internal clock, it's switched upside down from time to time. So for me right now, it feels like it's 10:30 in the morning. I've already got up and done some stuff, but I still seem to be on the Asian time clock. Don't take that the wrong way. I used to live in China, so that's what I mean by Asian time clock. So that's it. That's all done. So all we have to do now is go back into the Windows Server Backup here. Right? Now, we can either back it up to a local disk, or we could back it up to a file space. Now, since what I want to do is I want to back up both of these drives right here, right? Okay. So what I'm going to do excuse me, is we've got what do we got? We got, let's say, 100. We got 100 gigabytes, and we got, let's say, 40 gigabytes. So we got 140 gigabytes there. So what I want to do is I don't want to back it up to one of those. So I'm going to go in here and I'm actually going to add a disk, 140 gigabytes. So I'm going to go back into my host here, and I'm going to click on these settings here. Now I'm going to put the disk inside of my 2 terabyte here, and I'll just drop it into, where can I drop it? So I'll just make a new folder here called backup disk. Actually, we'll call it VM backup, something like that, right? Okay, so I'm gonna go, we're on our settings for the Armor one, so I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna select hard drive, and I'm gonna select add, and I'm gonna select new virtual disk, next, fix size, next, and I'm gonna put it in that folder space we just created, right in here in the 2 terabyte VM backups, and we're gonna call it Arma server 1 backup disk 1. Alright, pretty simple. That's kind of how I name shit. We're gonna say next. The size, we said it was 140 gigabytes, so we're gonna do 140. Could actually go a little bit more, so let's do 160 just to give a little bit of a buffer there. Alright, hit next, finish, and that's it. So we're gonna create the new virtual hard disk. Okay, now you're gonna see why I'm doing it this way in a few minutes. Now this might take a little bit of time to create this new disk because I actually only have the one 3 terabyte there, sorry, 2 terabyte rather, and it's a good disk, don't get me wrong. It's a Western Digital, it's a red disk, NAS drive disk. I mean it's fast, it's just not the fastest disk in the world. If I had my time back, I probably would have gone with a Western Digital black versus the red, but at the time I was being, you know, budget conscious, and I wanted to make sure that you know, I was trying to save some money, so I went with the red. It was cheaper, but in hindsight I should have gone with the black, right? So as you can see, the disk it's starting to allocate space and all that stuff, so it's gonna go ahead and create that virtual drive, and it's gonna take the space and make it available for our machine. And it should only take a few minutes. Once that's done, we'll be able to jump back over here and add the disk, right? And as you can see, you know, our server is busy populating that disk there, right? Just check the I'm slowly running out of memory here. The server does not have a lot of memory unfortunately, so things take a little bit longer sometimes to do. I mean, I have a little bit of a buffer, but not much. I mean, we're sitting at 87% there right now, so I'm gonna work on getting some more memory in the future, because I didn't actually plan to run any servers again, but I had some of my friends asking me for it, so I decided, fuck, why not, right? I used to have this machine actually set up in a different configuration. It was set up as a personal home server, and I was using it for various other virtual machines, but since then I've got my hands on another ThinkPad that I use for that sort of stuff, and now I'm using this strictly for my own personal use on the main host. From time to time I'll use it for, you know, Spotify and Netflix and that kind of thing. I used to have Kodi on there, but with all the heat on Kodi right now, I don't tend to do much with Kodi now. I used to, but it became to the point where it almost wasn't worth it. The hassle wasn't worth it to try to get it set up and everything. I may do a video on that a little bit later on, you know, how to make a Kodi machine, but it was such a pain in the ass. Like, it would work for a few days and then it would go down, or part of it would work. I mean, it was just constant updating and all that sort of stuff. And I used Netflix in the past, and I canceled my Netflix for a while, but to be quite honest with you, I mean, I've got the Netflix app on my phone. I've got a Chromecast, and I have Netflix through the browser, and it's just a lot easier for me. And if there's something that's not available on Netflix, well, I have cable TV and other means for that sort of thing. So as you can see, it's the disk is being populated right now. Like I say, it is running at probably full capacity, so I don't think it'll go much faster than that, but it's a good disc, don't get me wrong. Like I say, it's a decent disc, right? You know, like I say, I bought it. I got a really good deal on it. It's a Western Digital, right? It's a really good disc. I mean, I like it. It's just it's not as fast as I'd like. I've had a Western Digital Black before, so moral of the story is if you can afford a Western Digital Black, they're much better. I mean, this one's designed to be running constantly, which I'm sure it probably is, considering that I have virtual machines on there, right? So, you know, I've got a lot of different things on here. I use it for a lot of different stuff. I kind of use it as my own personal storage space too, which isn't ideal, but there isn't really anything important on there. It's just kind of like my dump. I put all my crap on there. You know, and I've got some games on there and stuff like that too that I've downloaded and whatever. But it's a decent drive. I mean, it's not that bad. I do run a couple of the one of the virtual machines on there, so that may be impeding the performance a little bit. I don't know. I got a domain controller running on there. I don't really think the domain controller is you know, using any resources really. It's running, but it's not really, you know, it's running. It's doing what it's supposed to do, but it's just a domain controller, a secondary domain controller actually. The host is actually the first domain controller, but is a domain controller as well, I should say. And then this is the secondary, so we have two domain controllers. Even though this one's the host, sorry, even though this is on the host, I had it set up that to always start this virtual machine. Actually, I should save that because I changed that one time before. I was trying to update the BIOS the other day, and I was having a real, got a web server on here too. I was having a real hard time getting the BIOS updated. It wasn't successful actually at all. I was unable to update the BIOS, and you know, that kind of pissed me off a little bit because, you know, it is an Intel based machine, so even though they did release a BIOS version, I was unsuccessful. For some reason it was blocked, so I don't know if, I mean, fucked if I know. Maybe it's already compromised. I really have no idea, to be honest with you. It is an Intel machine, so, and you can see it's running. It's not running the latest BIOS. The latest BIOS is F20F, I believe, and I was unable to go past this one. So, and I didn't want to risk, you know, frying the motherboard, or, you know, things go wrong, right? You know, having one of the discs wipe or something like that, or frying the M.2 drive or something. Who knows? So I tried a few different ways to update it, but you know, it wouldn't update. So it's unfortunate, but that's the way it was, you know. And this server is overclocked. It's you know, it's not like a super awesome machine, but it's pretty awesome for what I need it for anyway. 4.4, it's water cooled, so I mean, it doesn't make any noise or anything like that. It has good memory, but like I said, it's only 16 gigabytes. I kind of wish I had 32. Excuse me. In hindsight, I should have got 32. I never built this machine with the intent of it being a server anyway, though. So, as you can see, I mean, it's good enough for what I need, right? Just not enough memory. So wow, it's taken a long time for this thing to create this disk. I apologize for the wait. I'm not as proficient with the recording software as other people, so I don't really know how to stop the recording and start it back up. I guess I should have maybe created this disk ahead of time, but then you wouldn't have seen how to do it either. So bear with me for a few minutes while I allow this machine to create this disk. So I guess it has to write all the space in a specific way first. It's almost done. It's got it has all the space allocated already. I don't quite know why it's taking that long. Normally it doesn't take this long, so I don't know why this time it's taking this long. But well, that's interesting. I do have quite a few ports available. In reality, I should have that disk in a RAID. I might try to grab another 2 terabyte, the same disk, and you know, move some of the data around and set it up as a RAID, because you know, we still got a lot of ports there, so I don't even know what these are costing these days. Let's see. There's a Firefox update, of course. I normally go to Newegg, right? They have pretty much everything you need, and I usually get good service from them. So, and I like the Western Digital. So we can go from newest to oldest. Oops, actually I meant to select that one. I think we have a 2 terabyte. It's a 2 terabyte, isn't it? Yeah. Let's see, newest to oldest. Yeah, see, you can get a 2 terabyte Western Digital Black right now for $149. I paid more than that for the one I have for the red. You know, see the red now, it's only $104, which I wish I had known. I paid a lot more for mine than that when I got it. I didn't buy it too long ago, maybe 6 months ago. So I could have got 2 of these Western Digital right now for what I paid for mine easily. So I would definitely go with this one here, the Western Digital Black. They do actually make quite a bit of a difference My server is actually a small form factor, so even the smaller ones would be fine. You know, I could pick up a couple, let's see, hard drives. We can go with, let's see what the 2 terabyte, let's see, 2 terabyte Western Digital Black. Let's see what they're going for. Dun, dun, dun. Let's go with 2 terabyte. Western Digital. Oh, they don't have a 2 terabyte black. Okay. Yeah, it's a bit slow, but anyhow. So this is almost done. Again, I apologize for the time it's taken to get this disk to populate. I don't know why it's I guess 160 gigabytes is you know, it is a lot of space, so you know, it's a good disk though. Disk is busy right now, so it's not gonna. I bet you the server's probably going ape shit right now out there. Let's see. Let's see what the temperature's fairly low, so. I should just bump the CPU V core up to 1.3 so it's not jumping around all the time like that. Anyway, temps are fine. Just gotta wait for this to populate. So as I said, you know, this server is in production. As you can see, it is. It's not gonna respawn right now because the server's. It's making this disk, so it's probably taking all the juice out of this one. That's probably what's taking so long. I should have actually turned the server off while it's creating this disk. Probably would have went a lot faster, but since it's in a production environment, it probably has to cache through the memory, which again, like I said, I don't have a lot of memory, so only got 2 gigabytes available now. So with virtual machines, that's the thing, it's all about the memory. So it's almost done. Just about done. There's our disk there. $160 gigabytes. Right? It's just about done. Now let me see if I can. I don't think I can pause this recording. No, I can't. I'm not too familiar with this software, so I think you can only start and stop. I don't think there's a way to pause once you start. I didn't really want to do this video in 2 parts. I kind of wanted to leave it in 1 part, so let's just, what's the time? How long have we been recording right now? I do apologize again for the length of this video. We're at 25 minutes, so in any event, if you do watch this video, you can always fast forward this part until it's completed. It seems to be doing a little bit at a time, so I'm guessing it's just finalizing the chunks that it needs. I ran out of coffee, so now I'm getting impatient. And I can't leave this now, so yeah, this server must be creating a new virtual disk. It's never taken me this long before. I guess we're at capacity with this disk. I mean, as far as throughput goes, I guess we're kind of maxing everything out with having it running at the same time. And like I said, ideally in a production environment, obviously, you know, a lot of this is for testing and whatever. I wouldn't do it this way. I mean, you know, I would like to have a disk excuse me, a dedicated disk for each system, you know, and a dedicated disk for each drive on that system and so on. So I mean, I would never do it this way, and traditionally backup disks need to be it should be a dedicated backup disk. So I mean, you know, technically you could do it shared and whatnot, but again, like I said, for me, I know this isn't best practices, but for me, I have limited resources, so you know, I have to work with what I have, right? So, but I mean, you know, you could always set it up where, you know, you have a disk for this host machine, you know, you have a specific disk for you know, each one of these servers could have their own disk and their own backup disk and so on and so forth, right? You could always have 1 disk per server and have it partitioned, so part of the disk is for backup and part of the disk is for operation. There's, you know, there's a lot of different ways that you can utilize disk space. I mean, you could also do it offline too. I could also have, you know, another entirely different server just set up dedicated as a backup server, you know, with just disks, a lot of disks, and you know, a lot of RAID disks, and have it on the network, so everything is backed up to that machine, whereas it's not on this machine at all. So it could be a separate machine, where a bare metal machine outside of the host that is connected through the network, and you know, I could have it so even if the host goes down, everything is all backed up to another machine. You could even do offsite backups, right? You could have it, you know, you could have other, you know, data centers or, you know, data disks accessible through the internet, and you could back up through shared folders that way as well. Like, there's a lot of different ways you could do your backups. So this is kind of just the layman's way of doing it cheap when you don't have a lot of money and you don't have a lot of hardware. In the past, I had a machine dedicated for backups, and actually this machine that we're using right now, it used to be a file share server for my server space in my office. This server actually was set up with a whole bunch of disks, and it was actually a bare metal backup machine for my other server, which is now sold. I don't have it anymore, but I used to back up that server to this machine. So but the process is still the same, right? It doesn't matter how you allocate disks, or, you know, setting up the backup is much the same. I try to keep things simple. Sometimes people like to do things in a complicated way. I tend to like to just keep it simple. You know, whatever works, and as long as it works well, then that's all there is to it. Now, this should be done in a second. Come on, hard drive, you can do it. Again, like I say, I'm pretty sure we're pushing the limit of this drive, as it's just crawling along. I don't even, yeah, anyhow, here we go, another chunk more. Let's go. You guys are probably tearing your hair out. I do apologize. Like I said, I didn't even think about this taking this amount of time. Alright, so that's all done. We've got the virtual disk there now, okay? Oh, thank God, that took forever. So go ahead and hit apply now. You can see that we've got this ARMA server 1, backup disk 1 is now in the list. Yeah. Okay. So we can go ahead and jump into our other server there now. Now we're not going to see it in here because it's not allocated yet, right? So what we're going to do is we're just going to check and see if it is in our, yeah, so it's unknown, right? It's allocated, it's unknown, it's disk 4, okay? So what we're going to do now is jump into our backup here, and we're going to create a backup schedule. Now again, like I said, our environment is still live, right? Everything is still up and running. Our clients would have no idea what we're doing in the background here at the moment, right? You can see everything is still active, okay? So you just go and hit the backup schedule, and you're going to hit next. You're going to do a full server recommended. Right now it's at 83.49 gigabytes. Just going to hit next. And we could do once a day. We'll just keep that default for now. You could do more than one time a day. So if you want to do every hour, you could set it up every hour. You know, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. So, excuse me, I'm going to do mine at 9. That should be fine. Actually, I'm going to change that time to, we'll change it to 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And we're going to back up to a disk that is dedicated for backups. Okay, now you can back up to a volume. Alright, so if you wanted to, you could format that volume, that disk we just created, and make a volume and do it that way. Right, you could attach an external volume to your virtual machine through the host. You could do it that way. Or if you're doing it on your host, you could attach an external disk to your host. Or you could do it here to a shared network folder. So any network folder, whether local or excuse me, on the internet, you could do it that way. So we're gonna do this time we're gonna do dedicated, and that's what's recommended, right? It says show all available disks. So we're gonna use this one here, right? That 160 gigabyte that we just created. I'm gonna hit next. Now when you hit finish, it's just saying that the disk will be reformatted and blah blah blah. You could read that later. You just hit next. We're gonna hit finish. No, it says the disk is not accessible, so we're just gonna go back. Let me just go back here. Now maybe it's because, let's see, we have to refresh probably. Let's see, disk. Excuse me. Oh yeah, here it says unknown, so we have to bring it online. My bad. And what we're going to do is we're going to initialize. There we go. I missed a step. I apologize. Okay, so that's done there now. It should be okay. So let's just go ahead and do this again. So hit next, and there we go. It actually selected it for us this time automatically, right? Show all available disks, right? Okay. Next, yes, finish. Oh, it says the backup cannot be found. Actually, we're going to close this. Let me restart this process here. Now, for some reason, let's just go ahead and create a volume. 160. Now it should be, let's see. For some reason, it's not letting us. It says it's online. All right, before we create a volume, let's just try one more time. Maybe it's because we had it open beforehand. So let's try backup schedule. Let's go next, full server next. Change this to 1 p.m. Next. Next. No external disk. Maybe we do have to create it as a volume. It's possible that we do. Let's see. Yes. Finish. Oh, there we go. No, we don't. Okay, that's great. So we just had to restart the Windows Server backup to get that to work, right? All right, so it shows here now. So again, if we go into our PC here, we see that the disk is not showing up in our in our Explorer window there. But if we go back into, if we refresh here, we will see that this is a fixed volume, right? And we could see it's where is it here? Right, we could see it's got formatted as, and it has a system label, right? So let's just go in here and I'll show you. This is what you want to see. If we go into create and format hard disk partitions now, we could see that it's right here. We've got the ARMA one, and we've got the date and the time, and that disk is dedicated for backup. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and we're going to back up once, and we're going to back up using our scheduled backup options. We're going to hit backup, and hopefully we will have a successful backup. Now, if you run into an error or if it fails to back up, I've had this situation before, try just rebooting the server. Sometimes when you add a disk and you format the disk, even though it's formatted for backups and so on and so forth, you run into an error. So as long as you see this status here and it's it starts, you're fine, right? So it's going to back up the local disk, it's going to back up the recovery, it's going to back up your RAID. And what this is going to do now is all your data now, even in your live environment, okay, even though your servers are running, right, we didn't have to shut anything down, it's going to back everything up now. So all your information that you have in your server here, whether it's your mods or your missions or whatever, okay, all that stuff is going to be backed up now. So you're not going to lose your work. Now once this is completed, you can always copy that backup disk, okay. You can copy that disk off, you know, you can do as much backup redundancy as you want. So now this is running, and it'll run, it's set it and forget it, you know, it'll run every day at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Whether I'm online or not, the server will automatically back itself up, which is great. And at any time you can also go in and extract information from the backup. You can copy the disk and mount the disk on another machine. You can extract information from it, so it's really good. It's a really good system once it works properly. So that's it. I'm just gonna let this run. It's gonna take a bit of time. Obviously we're not gonna sit here while, you know, almost 100 gigabytes backs up, and that's it. Again, I do apologize for the length and time it took to set up the disk, right? As we could see here now, you're probably going to see that our disk is quite active. right? So we're getting up to, you know, it was up at 400 megabits per second there a second ago. So it's, you know, it's gonna go. It's gonna go. It's gonna do it, and it's gonna back itself up, and that's what we wanted. Okay, so that's it. We successfully backed up our server, and now all of our information is safe, and we can restore from that backup if need be. So thanks guys for watching. Again, if you liked the video, hit the like button. If you have any ideas, go ahead and leave a comment. You can connect with me on my Discord or whatever, and that's all for now. Later.